looks good.
Are we back? Technical
Looks like
difficulties.
Is it
Worst
back?
E3 presentation ever.
Ever, right?
Expo, I hate to announce you, but you are fired.
That's not my fault, man. I can't.
Oh, well, you're taking the blame.
I will
Anyway.
I will anyway. So what's
All right, so
what are we on?
we'll start recent news. So I'm going to start at the top with the
All right,
lottery
so
system.
Lottery. So let's get to
We
the
opened the
lottery.
casino, which has been a hot topic, obviously, for various reasons. But Monster Shuffle, which was the first game that we introduced, went through a few revisions, and it there were some problems with it. Obviously, we took it offline once or twice. We've made some changes to it. At one point, people were essentially sitting there printing money like it was an ATM, which wasn't really great for the economy. Or if they weren't printing money, they were just getting rare after rare after rare, which aren't so rare anymore. It was riddled with problems, and there was a lot of conversation behind the scenes. And what we realized was that the jackpot that was being created out of Monster Shuffle wasn't actually real money or even loss. It was just a number that was being created by the server. So we had players that were dumping, all of their Outlands life savings into a game, and that money, they weren't going to win the jackpot. It got up to something like 35 million, which wasn't really something that we wanted to do, or something that we wanted to hand out. It wasn't working. It was completely broken, and we tried to be as transparent about it as possible, short of saying, no, we did say, we just took it offline, made revisions to it, and I didn't want to.
It's where it should be.
I didn't want to come off as disingenuous in that we were running away with your money, because obviously I don't need your virtual money. I can create as much of it as I want to, but the goal was to get Monster Shuffle back online and have the odds in a place that were more realistic to winning. And also then we've created a lottery, which is handing out 20 million or 18 million or something like that. So the lottery system, the first lottery, we have one player who's going to win 5 million, 10 players who are going to win 1 million, 20 players who will win 100K, and 100 players who will win 10K. So there's a lot of prizes to be handed out. You can go and buy a ticket for 1,000 gold from the lottery master who's upstairs at the casino. And on, on July 1st, there will be a draw for all of those prizes. Oh, the keynote of this is that you need to keep the ticket in your bank in order to win. And once you have a winning ticket, it will be converted to a gold ticket, and then you can claim your prize. So you can buy as many tickets as you want. You are able to win as many times as tickets that you've bought. It's not based on how many tickets you've bought as an individual player, but as the total number of tickets that have been purchased that are in banks will be considered at the time of the draw.
Have you been tracking, out of interest, how much gold?
There's a lot of tickets that have been purchased.
I was just wondering, probably
There's
slightly
a
off
lot.
topic, how much gold has been spent in the casino? Do you know? Is that
A lot of gold. It served its point to a certain extent, other than the people that figured out that you can just continue to win and you're never going to lose any money. But there were a lot of people that didn't figure out exactly how the system was working.
Yeah, I guess a lot of people were just logging in and just rolling it a few times every day.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was evident how broken it was when there were 80 people sitting there. Some of them with 3 clients.
Yep.
They were macroing the system. It wasn't working properly.
Yeah,
Let's
exactly.
put it
That's
that
it.
way.
That's
am
all it is.
I right in thinking that you could win like a little bit each time, basically?
Oh,
So
wow.
Yeah,
Hello,
if you played low, you were winning a little bit every time. You were definitely earning money. So then after this draw is done, which will be July 1st, then every month we'll have a lottery, which will basically be a 50-50. So if you've ever been to a sports event, you buy tickets, 50% of the proceeds go to, the venue. In this case, it's us, and that is just going to be gold that's deleted, and 50% will be given to one player. So it could be quite a lucrative haul every month, but I think also economically it's very sound for us to have a gold sink like this.
Yeah.
You can buy 1 ticket or 1,000 tickets, however much you want to spend. And this is sort of our first foray into shard-wide gold sinks, and I think it's kind of a fun one. And then in terms of the casino, we have a few more games that are coming. We've just patched poker in, which I know a lot of people have been quite excited about. One of our players, Belial, designed a beautiful set of cards and poker table
Oh, Belial's a talented guy. Yeah, I've seen some of his work.
Yeah, he's started working on a few other art projects for us.
Yeah, there's
and
a picture of the cards on the screen right now.
Yeah, so the
amazing.
Game is coming. It's been coded. Obviously, it has to be tested. I don't know of a shard in UO free shard history that hasn't had a really bugged game of poker. So we need to put some eyes on that, obviously, before it goes live, and learning lessons from Monster Shuffle, and then also Liar's Dice, and who knows what else will come to the casino. But that's kind of an ongoing side project. It should be fun. Next, what are we moving on to? Guild Quotas, the Omniboss.
What is this? What Guild Quotas? I don't even know what this is. Explain, Owen.
You need to get out of the arena. Guild Quotas are a system for guilds. If you go into your guild menu, there's now a guild quota page. Dungeons page, I guess is the correct word. And under each one, and depending on how much gold your guild is farming in that dungeon, the meter goes up. And once you've farmed up to 1 million gold, then you're able to summon a main boss in that dungeon. This system's been a huge success. People are farming like crazy. They're out more. Your small guild has a chance to summon a boss. You now have a purpose. You feel like you're contributing to your guild. We know that people are selling their summons. They're begging for summons. They're interrupting people who are summoning. The whole system has become hugely active. And this all feeds into the, the Omnitomb system, or the Omniboss system. You're working to fill your Tomb of Heroism, and then it gives you the ability to summon the Omniboss. I think we've had 3 or 4 Omniboss summons now. The last one was really wild. Sin summoned it. There were over 100 clients in the Omniboss room, the Omni Lair. Basically, when you finish your Tomb of Heroism, you get 3 chain links, and then the Omniboss has 5 million HP, and at each million HP mark, you have a chance to win or to be rewarded with a chain link. So all those boss results are on the boss results menu, which is also something new, so you can see who's doing damage, who's getting the rewards, who's getting the tokens. All of those things are now on boss results, square bracket boss results, which is a nifty little menu. I like to look at it every day. I know a lot of people are looking at it to figure out timings on certain things, like when mini bosses are spawning. That's something that I'll address later. And this all feeds into the mastery chain system, which is sort of our endgame PVM buff system, which I know that people are diving into. There are a few bugs with it right now in terms of appearance. In Classic UO, you'll have gargoyle wings.
What?
That's a funny little throwback to the slot that the mastery chains are sitting in.
Oh, Expo, we need to see this.
Not right now.
Someone was reporting it. I'm like, oh, I've got wings. I was like, yeah, I don't get used to it. And they were upset because they thought that this was a bonus. Like, they wear their mastery chain and they get their wings. But that wasn't really what we intended.
That's a good one.
So the Omniboss is a large, a guild activity, end game, group up, make an alliance, whatever it might be, tackle the Omniboss. When Rec did it, they finished the Omniboss with like 40 seconds to spare and got out of it, and they weren't rated. When Sin did it, I think they had 5 chain links because they were rated, but then took it back and finished more damage, or did the most damage for the last million HP. So obviously this system's not for everybody. This content is endgame. It should be treated that way. The expectation shouldn't be that you're going into this system and you're finishing all 5 million HP, and if you can't finish the 5 million HP, then you somehow failed. That's why we give you 3 chain links for completing the Tomb of Heroism. Your goal should be to get as many of those 5 as is available to you as possible, but going in trying to have this perfect 8 chain event isn't necessarily where your expectations should be at. I understand why you might think that, but the goal of this system is to create, potentially an afternoon server-wide event where, we're bringing 100 clients together and there's just chaos and madness and PvP. It's a gray zone. It's meant to be a clash. So if you're able to field that many people and you can get that that big group together, and better luck to you, good luck, whatever, go for it with the Omniboss. But
am I right in thinking as well that Luthien just coded this from scratch in a few weeks?
Yeah, no, he knocked this out in no time. This was another kind of
how is that even possible?
Sorry.
Sort your dog out, Owen. I think
Luthien is just a beast. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, but yeah, no, he's probably taking care of his dog.
He's putting the dog in another room quite clearly. Yeah, so I'm sure this system came from scratch, from design stage to being active on the server in the space of about 2 months somehow.
Yes, because we had first announced it probably we had been talking about in December, I believe, and then yeah. So wow, man, that's incredible. Now that I'm just thinking about that as well, because not only that came with all the heroism, the token of heroism.
Yep.
Sorry,
bosses,
crazy yappy dog.
Disgraceful.
I know, she's so bad. I told her not to interrupt this.
Carry on, Owen.
All right, so if you can't field a large group, or you feel like the Omniboss is daunting, or you're not in a guild, then the option is that you are able to summon lore bosses by completing lore notes, which is something that's dropping. They drop on everything, but you have a better chance of getting lore notes out of something that's high end, that has a high difficulty value. And you have to decipher the notes with some weird clicky thing. And then once you have your lore notes completed, like you've completed a full set of lore notes from one book, I don't know offhand how many books there are. There's quite a few, so it may take you a while to finish one. Then you get a level 8 treasure map, which comes with a lore boss, which also will drop mastery chains. So there's another avenue to get into this whole system. And that kind of summarizes that. I mean, most people have been diving into this system, so it's not really news. I don't have to explain it. It was something that we talked about as an idea on the last debrief, so I just wanted to cover it as something that's now fully come to fruition. And then what is next? We just hosted a tournament. We had our third official 1v1 order tournament. Went really well.
How many people signed up, Owen?
We had nearly 60 people. I think there were 58 contestants in it. And it ran really smoothly, and
some fantastic fights there, which are playing right now.
The finals was Piper
and
Baka.
Some interesting templates being used as well.
And then King Kai and Protege dueled it out for third. Protege came out on top and knocked out King. So the arena statue system isn't working very well, so now there's temp statues in the arena for the winners. But we do have the arena system now on a regular schedule, so those will be happening weekly. The next will be a 2v2 order, then a 3v3 order tournament following on Saturdays. Ideally, I think we're going to look at these schedules and figure out how things are going to work, but we do want to do a Tank Mage Tuesday tournament where players will have to choose a Tank Mage template and enter that way. I know, obviously, that's the era, and if we want to maintain sort of credibility in the dueling world, I think that it's necessary that we facilitate that kind of a tournament, because right now, the order tournaments, you can kind of bring in some cheese templates and hope for the best. It's fun. I think people enjoy it, but it's not, hardcore top-of-the-line T2A duelists that are, vying it out for a title because they're playing against some weird parry Dexter. So
is the rule set already set for those, or is that still up for debate?
It's still up for debate. That's not fully coded yet, but it's something that's definitely on our agenda to implement into the arena. With that, I think would also come a few other ideas. People have been wanting to bet on arena tournaments as well. That's something that Luthien is aware of and wants to include. So the ability to bet on a contestant. And also, I was talking to Floop. He presented an idea for med pads, which I think is kind of a cool idea, that we put 2 tiles in the arena, and if both players are standing on those tiles at the same time, they med at an accelerated rate, which would make the duels, a bit faster paced. And
it's a really clever idea.
Yeah, I think that would be fun. So that's something that Luthien is aware of and will most likely implement.
Nice.
So tournaments are on schedule. They're going really well. And now I think that they're more regular. We'll start to see more turnout, and people are after those rewards, like Black Cloth, which is only available
the
through the
arena
arena.
rewards are fantastic. Everyone will sign up just to score a few points.
Yeah.
You're always going to have a good turnout with those rewards.
Yeah, I think so. So we look forward to seeing how those pan out. And then props to Expo. He's been working really hard on this new wiki. The old wiki was beautiful but problematic in the sense that it wasn't easily editable, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of a wiki. So he went backwards and has reinstalled MediaWiki and started from scratch, and it's looking really good. There's a lot more information there. A lot of the information is sortable in tables, and it's all indexed properly, and people have been contributing to it, which is definitely what we're looking for. There are members of the community who are jumping on there now, and they're making changes as they see fit, and I know that Expo stays on top of it.
The map pages look amazing for the dungeons. That's fantastic.
Yeah, all the mobs are there.
No idea that he's done all this.
You can sort it all, all the tamables by each dungeon. It's becoming the resource that we always had hoped it would become, and Expo definitely deserves some applause for the amount of time and effort he's spent on that system.
Expo. Good boy.
On those
Thank
pages.
You. Yes, there's basically, obviously there's still some information that might be outdated or missing or whatever, and like I said, it's now if you would like to help edit, it's a lot easier, as Owen mentioned, and I love it. I think it's great, and it deserves, or it's what Outlands deserves. There you go. So.
This bestiary looks fantastic, man. It's amazing.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of nerds out there that like all of this information, and we've obviously been really transparent with all of the information that we put out there. Even with animal lore, you see a lot of information, and through the patch notes, and all of that information is being gathered and put onto the wiki, and we're keeping it as up to date as possible. So the wiki is becoming the resource that it was always meant to be. So now on to coming soon, which I think is what most people are listening for.
Yeah, this is the exciting stuff, Owen.
Yeah, we've got a lot coming. Luthien has been working so hard. He codes nonstop. The other day he was like, I was up coding till 6 a.m. I'm running on 2 hours of sleep. It's time for bed. And the main thing that he's working on right now is the guild patch. He calls it the guild patch. It's far more sweeping than just guilds, but it's really the culmination and the unification of all of the PvP systems that we have on the Shard, which I think we desperately need. This kicks off with Sieges and Sigils, which has converted each castle in Andaria, Prevalia, and Cambria into something that you can contest. And I'm going to let CLX talk about this because he's been testing it on the test shard, so he can explain exactly how that works and what that means for players and what you get out of it when you hold a castle.
Oh, I'll try. So the background for this, as I'm sure the majority of people realize, is there's been kind of a bit of a debate around Outlands PvP that everything is scheduled and people kind of wait to log in for CCC or for faction struggles. So it's a way for players to generate organic PvP content, which you can do by taking possession of the castles. As Owen said, they're in Prevalia, Andaria, and Cambria. As you can see where Expo is now, there's gates that can be broken down. As soon as your guild begins to hit the gate of the castle, other players receive a message saying the castle is under siege. I'm not actually sure if just the guild that owns receives a message, or if all players that are Guild War flagged,
all faction flag players will get that.
So there won't be any faction flag players. I'm right in thinking it'll just be Guild War flags. So if a guild wants to start some PvP, or even if you're on your own and you want to fight, easy thing to do: go and bang on the castle door. People will turn up for a fight. But if you do actually want to take ownership of the castle, you have to wait to break the gate down. As you can see, you've got hit points. Looks like 10,000 hit points to break the gate down. In testing, it's taken something like 10 to 20 minutes to break the castle gate down. Presently, I'm not sure if this is how it's going to continue. The next thing you need to do is kill the sentinels inside the castle. So there's 3 sigils inside the castle, each of which is protected by 3 sentinels. Once the sentinels are dead, you then stand by the sigils to capture them. So 1 person or more from a guild needs to stand by each of the 3 sigils in the base. So inside the Cambria base, exposed stood by 1 of the sigils now in orange. Once all 3 have been captured, your guild has taken ownership of that castle. Once you have ownership of the castle, it can't be sieged by another group for 2 hours. So the gate goes back in place and you've got 2 hours of immunity basically. After that 2-hour period, any other guild can siege, take control. Benefits of ownership are additions to your guild treasury. So controlling a castle adds X amount of gold into your guild treasury. I don't know exactly how much. I think that's still up in the air. Owen can probably correct me on that or not. So yeah, here we go. You can Expo's got it on screen now. So it will add money into the gold treasury, into the guild treasury. The actual mechanics of the system itself also involve traps. I'm not sure. I think it's possibly siege mortars as well, which can be used in defense. Traps that can be set to aid the defending guild. So there's a lot of similarities with factions on OSI. At present, there's no transportation element of sigils to bases. It's literally capture the base and defend the base. But I think Luthien has got ideas for extensions to the system. But yeah, it looks like a really, really promising system. I think if people can get on test, try it out, Luthien would really appreciate it. I've done a little bit. A few other people have been interested. But I think the system is mostly untested. And obviously, the more we test, the quicker it'll get onto live.
Exactly. You asked for the test shard to test things. We would appreciate that, because then it only gets better. Simple as that. And quicker, I guess.
I think there's been a lot of feedback on it. There will definitely be some updates made to the patch notes about the way that the Sigils and Sieges system works. I think it fills a really interesting void that we have, and people, like you said, want to do PvP content on their own time. One thing that we didn't touch on, though, is that there are PVM buffs, there are guild prestige to be gained, and there are faction reward points to be gained. And one main thing in the whole unification of all of these systems is that we're marrying all of them together. So guild struggles, sigils and sieges, corpse creep contest, as well as dungeon splash points, and there's potentially one more system that I might touch on briefly, are all being married under the same roof now. And you'll be able to view your global standing as a character, your global standing as a guild. You'll be able to look back at previous contests and events to see exactly where you stand. We know that a lot of people have been looking for that sort of old show score mechanic where you see where you sit in the world. And we were kind of waiting for more of these systems to come to fruition before we started to marry them together. And I think obviously now this is the perfect time. So with this major guild patch comes obviously sigils and sieges, the guild treasury, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for in order to control guild finances. We'll begin to see the inclusion of the guild treasury in various systems, and I'll touch on that when I talk about flashpoints as well. And blood feuds are also coming into play, which are basically moneyed guild wars that you can put a wager onto from your guild treasury. 2 guilds can challenge each other to 50 kills for 5 million gold, and whoever gets there first then gets that money. It's left in escrow, and you could have some big victors and big prizes and bragging rights there.
So just going back to what you said a minute ago, so am I right in thinking now that every single one of the PvP events, so Sigils and Sieges, CCC, Flashpoints, and Struggles will all feed into the same reward table, which at present is the faction reward table, and it will become known as the guild reward table.
Yeah.
And we'll have some additional rewards. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Perfect.
So it's all living under one house, under one roof.
Amazing.
Under one house, under one roof, and it's I just want to show this little menu as well. In the guild menu, you can see we're kind of honeypotting when these events are happening, because often people log in and they say, like, where's the action? And now on the menu, you can see exactly where that action is. You know exactly when the next struggle is. You know exactly when the next CCC is, when the next flashpoint is, and when the next castle will become available for sieging. So literally, part of this as well is rescheduling everything. So faction struggle or a town struggle will happen, and then an hour later CCC will happen, and then an hour later a dungeon flashpoint will happen, and then we start again. And intermixed in all of this is castle sieges, and then there's one other system which I'll touch on later that will be implemented, and it's another sort of free-flowing PvP system. So
as well, replacing factions will be a global war system. So
we're getting rid of factions altogether. If you want to opt into this system as a guild, you'll join the global warfare system. If you're an individual player in the guild and you don't want to be a part of it, you can flag out of it. But otherwise, your guild will act as an individual faction. So
perfect.
I think that's important because you care about your guild and you care about your guild's ranking. You don't necessarily care about the other people that you're playing with in your faction, or you don't agree with who's in your faction. And factions have really come to mean nothing because you can hop from faction to faction, and a lot of people have been doing that for struggles. So the way that struggles will work moving forward is that everybody who logs into or signs into a struggle, you go through the green gate, you'll be put into the freedom base, which is now the neutral base, and there'll be sort of a queue time that will then separate teams so they're more even. There's been a lot of uneven struggles. They're not very fun to take part in. People get decimated and, they don't really enjoy it. So now you will be divided by guild. The system will do its best to divide in even teams, so you'll be playing with people that you care about, as well as being kept together as a unit, and against even teams. Those are the two key points there.
Yep. Honestly, it sounds like a dream. It really does.
I know people are tired of fighting in Prevalia. When this system rolls out, the other arenas will be available, so you'll be going back to faction struggles in Cambria and Andaria as well. We might potentially introduce another arena. I built an arena ages ago that was just a standalone map. It's green and flat, and PvPers will love it. So that is the gist of that system, all coming under one roof. Luthien was showing us the new menus last night in staff chat. The sort of show score menus, and each character will have their own identity page, kind of like in the arena where you can go and view the stats. And it really just looks slick. He's left a lot of room at the top for other events to slot in, expansions to the system. But really what it comes down to is the time all of this is released, there will be PvP available to PvPers at all times. And if they're saying they can't find action, then they're really not looking for it, or they're just not taking part in the events that we have going on. Agreed. So I think this checks a lot of boxes.
We couldn't ask for any more from a PvPer's perspective.
Yeah, Expo's just thrown that menu up, so you can see, obviously it's a dummy menu right now, but it will rank players and rank guilds, and you can look back at different struggles and different events, and you can see exactly where you're standing. So you can go by event. You can also look at lifetime, which is the total shard history of all of these events taking place, and you'll see exactly where you stack up against others playing in all of these faction events.
Amazing.
I need to stop calling them factions because factions is gone, but global warfare events.
It's going to take us a while.
You're now a little tribe. You're a little group of roving warriors.
That's what we really care about. Who cares about order or chaos? You care about your guild.
Yeah. So then there's changes to flashpoints coming. Flashpoints have been a dud system again, sort of poor implementation. Players were complaining and saying they couldn't find PvP when they wanted, and they wanted like a dinner bell system that said, PvP's happening here. But what we've come to realize, I keep saying this, we've learned a lot, to say the least, is that you think that PvPers want a PvP for PvP's sake, but the reality is that they don't. And even if you give them PvP, they don't necessarily take part unless they're being rewarded. So the flashpoint system, which was meant to say like, hey, I'm here, come fight me, is being reworked. And I think it'll be really cool. It's basically shifting to a dungeon control system where the flashpoint will be announced, which will then, this is happening now an hour after CCC, will happen 6 times a day in a random dungeon, and There will be the whole dungeon will stop spawning. It will basically become a mob-free zone, fully, PvP oriented, and the winning guild will then receive tax of everyone that's hunting in that dungeon into their guild treasury. So, say you've taken Palma, a certain amount of money, it's a small portion, will trickle into your guild treasury if you're in control of that dungeon by winning the
most recent flashpoint.
The most recent flashpoint.
Okay, so potentially, when the next flashpoint happens, that would cancel any bonuses, or would that dungeon bonus continue until that dungeon was triggered again?
It stops. So it's every 3 hours or 4 hours, a new dungeon control will come up, and then that will trickle into your treasury.
Right.
So it starts to be a meaningful system. You have dungeon control, you're filling your treasury, you can use your treasury however you like, you can fund your blood feuds, you can have different guild enhancements, whatever you like.
That's going to create a massive incentive for guilds to control a dungeon.
We're still debating if there will be a chest. I think there will be a lesser chest. It won't be the chest like Corpse Creek, but it will still be there with the chance to drop rare loot. So there's also that reward plus the control factor of it all.
Yeah.
And then what else? Corpse Creek is getting its own hue. So with the latest Shimmer Lunar package that went onto the merchant, we introduced our hue package, which is all of the items that you can use, like backpack dye or roombook dye or headgear dye, as well as the cloth. So we're going to be creating these packages now for various systems. So Corpse Creek, the CCC is getting its own hue package, and that will start to spawn in each chest. It's a really cool black color. People love dark colors, and that will start to be available in the chest once this system goes live. And we'll now start to see lifetime rankings and player rankings and faction points and prestige for CCC as it ties into the global faction system.
Oh, that's amazing. And this is what Luthien is working on right now, right?
Yes. And
what a hero.
I've also listened to a lot of complaints about the design of Corpse Creek. It's a really nice area to look at. It's really not functional, and that was an oversight on my part. Mostly because this area was never meant to be the designated PvP area, and this was all kind of sprung 2 weeks before the Shard launched. I didn't have any time to rework it, but it really isn't functional for PvP. There's a lot of line of sight issues and huge elevation changes, like where the CCC ring is at minus 60, and everything else, like where Expo is right now, is at 0. To cast a spell, you need to be within 20 Z of one another. So if you're running up that hill and you're trying to cast a spell, someone's 8 tiles ahead of you, then they're out of range. And I understand how that's frustrating. So I've been working sort of my most recent map project to elevate all of Corpse Creek and make it flat. So it is going to be properly designed for PvP. Finally, it's been a huge undertaking to make this all work properly.
Easy. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
No, obviously I have to move the town, but I'm making sure that the house placement areas are exactly the same size and that no one's getting any more space or less, and no new housing plots are becoming available, and access is staying the same way that it was. People are obviously really touchy about those sorts of things. They chose where they were placing their house. They put it there for a reason. Whatever. I get it. So hopefully I'm finished by the time this whole system rolls out, but knowing Luthien, he'll plow ahead of me. Anyway, that is incoming. So Corpse Creek will be redesigned, and it will be much easier to PvP in. Sort of a properly designed PvP area.
It's already good. If you're making some improvements, I'm sure it'll be perfect. It's really not as bad as people are making out. I mean, it's great.
I don't think anything's as bad as people make it out, but they love to rage. They wouldn't be UO players if they weren't.
Well,
raging.
I guess I'm also guilty of that. Expo, behind this big castle you're in front of now, is quite a nice area that I want you to keep on the map. There's a tunnel and a bridge. Yeah, just up there.
Yeah, that's already gone. Sorry. I'll say I'm
What?
gonna add some new terrain things to it that aren't quite as annoying as this line of sight issue stuff with this big hill and the drop into town. But yeah, a lot of this has already been deleted as I've worked to smooth things along.
You're a disgrace.
Hey, I'm just doing what's demanded of me by my people.
I suppose this moves us nicely onto the myth, the story of Ossuary 4, right?
What's Ossuary 4? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
Have you really built it? Has it actually happened?
Did I tease Ossuary 4 in the last one? I probably did. I mean, I've been talking about Ossuary 4 for eternity. Ossuary is a small dungeon. It doesn't really have a proper level 3, even, because level 1 is really small. It doesn't even count. Everyone just runs through it. And level 2 is just a passageway to get to level 3. Anyway, this dungeon was built.
Oh my god, look at this.
And it's incoming. So it's quite large. It's the dungeon level Ossuary deserves. Ossuary is one of my favorite dungeons. We didn't really have room to flesh it out properly, so Luthius has been working to flesh things out.
Ossuary is your greatest feat of map design, in my opinion, Owen. It's stunning.
Do you know how much sand I had to put in there? Yeah.
So Ossuary is going to launch with an event. I'm going to keep that information under wraps, but it's incoming. I think most of the creature design is done now, and it will open not with sort of the same massive event like we had for Cavernum, which was insane, but
Cavernum.
I'm not gonna talk much about it, but it's coming. It's coming. Basically, when Luthius wants to not work on PvP projects, or he doesn't want to work on this guild patch, he designs creatures for Ossuary 4. So there will be the goal of Ossuary 4 is to create high-end group content, because there isn't a lot of mobs and dungeons that require any group content beyond the bosses, obviously. So that is the goal. High HP, they take a little longer to knock down, they have great loot, you're all working together, and also some more high-level tamables. So
nice.
You have some things to look forward to there. And in keeping with the tradition, there's lots of one-tile areas for people to get fucked over on. Because that seems to be the signature of Ossuary.
And Owen.
And that's not my signature. That's the signature of the dungeon.
Says Dark.
So that's Ossuary 4 is coming. It's real. It's much further along than we've let on. It will open. I don't like putting dates on things because we're working so hard and not really focusing on one thing in particular, but hopefully it's late this month or early next month that we see Ossuary 4 open.
Wonderful.
We want to release Ossuary 4 before we do the summer festival, which will be a week-long event with different various activities, kind of just a fun, whimsical, typical UO summer fest, but with a new map and some fun things to take part in, plus a new hue will come with the summer festival. And then one other thing I wanted to touch on, I guess we're getting into the future section. I can talk about the Roleplaying Initiative, actually. That's something.
Yeah, come on. I want to hear about this.
That's something that's been on my mind. We had a really large role-playing community and then really dropped the ball on them, which wasn't our intention, but also was just a fact of the way that the Shard was growing. We had a lot of players. My attention was spent dealing with a lot of community and administrative issues and guiding the development team and, building all of that side of things. I lost track of the role-playing community, which was a shame because we had such good intentions for role players when we went into launching the Shard, including a cast of characters and lore that we had written in the creation story, and we really set the stage for a really rich role-playing community. And
yeah, that stuff really engaged me as someone who's never been a role player before. It really kind of encouraged me to want to get involved in the Shard storyline and stuff. So it was amazing how you set it up before launch. But I guess...
Yeah, I mean, we launched with 2,000 people, and I think 10 of them cared about the role-playing aspect of things. So it definitely got a bit... It went out of my, field of vision for a while. And The Orc Fort was the start of the Roleplaying Initiative in terms of the map development. We have a few groups now that are going to start seeing different map enhancements to facilitate their role-playing goals and the changes that they're looking for in the world. I know that the Path and the Knights Guild have some storylines and arcs that they're working on Nucero Island, which could see change. And also the Drow Guild is quite big and growing, and they're interested in having a lair. And I saw that the U Militia are now back, and
Yeah, I've seen a couple of you guys around the last few
they're
days.
looking for a lodge. And so I've appointed a seer, which I think is a really positive step in the right direction for the role-playing community, and also another map maker to work with me on helping to facilitate the change in the world that these role players need to make their storylines come to life. And those sorts of things will be, small, even in, like, there's a statue on Nucero Island that they've discovered and it's meaningful to their guild, and I'm going to raise it up and build a small, fort around it so that they can further their role-playing storyline. Those sorts of changes I think are really interesting, and we can start working on a quarterly map patch and
Exactly.
giving these role players the interactive world that they're looking for. So
They add so much flavor to the Expo. They add so much flavor to the server that if you can find someone to spend the time with them, it's well worth it.
Oh,
yeah,
definitely.
so we'll have this team working in tandem, and they'll start to bubble up content that they need from us, and I'll drop that on the development team's plate, and hopefully those storylines start to be enriched, and we see the start of major quest arcs that start on the Shard. And I know that even non-role players are looking for these sorts of quest arcs. We're playing a wizard game, for God's sake.
Yeah,
we had
fantasy lore happening.
We also set the bar really high with Cavernum, and all the quests leading up to it, which is something that we'd love to do again. But as Owen also mentioned, we've learned a lot, and as great as it is to have 400 something people in one place, it is not that fun to play with 400 something people in one place. So
I think that the role-playing community too has been a bit frustrated with their events being interrupted, or they're being mocked by the players who think that they're too cool to interact with role players, or they're ruining events. So I just want to send out a little message, and not to be quote unquote trammel, but if you see role players on the Shard, just remember that they're kind of the heart and soul of this game, and they play in their own world, and they're trying to add flavor, and they bring the world to life, and their stories and their interactions will begin to matter. And if you're interested in role playing, I highly encourage that you join the groups. They're all really welcoming and lovely to deal with. And then it will give us the fodder to start creating, these major quest arc quests that, historically people know and love from Ultima Online. Oh, you can start to, we'll aim to start incorporating those sorts of things by, the end of summer. And then as we move into the winter season, hopefully we'll have some, exciting lore and Shard-wide events happening. So
perfect.
That's the role-playing initiative. I'll take it under my wing and do my best to help that sector of the Shard grow.
For sure.
You guys have been busy. Seriously busy.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on.
There's been a lot going on in the past 6 months.
I think it's also important that we have people, who are directly in touch with the role-playing community so that they can be that point person. We had Lens on the job and also Expo as a community liaison, but obviously our, attention isn't always...
Yeah, it's difficult.
We give as much attention as we can to the things that we can, and obviously some things take more of our time than others. So
yeah, if you've got 1,500 people logged into your server, it's going to be very difficult to find the time to put attention into the 100 role players that there might be.
I'd love to sit and have a beer and role play with the the Knights. That sounds like a great afternoon, but I just don't have the time to do that. We've got other things that are on the go. All right, so let's move into the future. I feel like I just breezed all over that, and it's such a huge patch, and it's going to completely change the face of the Shard, but we've been talking about it a lot internally, so maybe I have breezed over it, but I think
it's exciting, Owen. It's incredibly exciting.
I think the most exciting part, which I did say, was the unification of all of these systems, and finally they live under one umbrella, and you'll be able to see your standing or your guild standing, and finally that means something. So meaningful rewards, meaningful PvP, constant PvP, always finding action. I think that we'll see some of the PvP guilds that have left to go play Albion will maybe return back and rejuvenate their characters and their guilds and take part in these systems for bragging rights, because finally that structure is in place for them to do so. So the future, ship people.
What?
ship people need some attention. The ship.
That isn't the correct terminology.
The naval players, people on boats, have probably been even more neglected than the role players. Can we just refer to them as sailors from now on? No, ship people. That's the politically correct way to refer to all people on boats, is just ship people in this modern age. Anyway, the loot sucks. It's a little buggy. It's not much fun. They're out there fighting each other. They deserve more. That system is so in depth, but also it's been woefully neglected, and it's Luthier's baby. And I'm sure if he had his way, he'd just be doing ship shit. So he's gonna focus on it after the PvP patch is released. Among many other things that he's focusing on, but he's making ships a priority, and that will see loot changes and system enhancements, and also see major boss and a mini boss. I'm working on map things, like a new island and a new sort of pirate dock port out in the water. We'll see some new loot. I have a new art patch that's going in, which has a lot of really awesome new art, which will be used in all those systems. Aquariums will finally be implemented, so you can put your fish that you've caught into an aquarium. There will be a few different backdrops to choose from. That is all in the works, finally. So for all of our sailors who have been enjoying the ship content and providing feedback, I know a lot of you deal directly with Luthier's. He has been taking all of those notes, and he will apply all of it into a meaningful ship patch. We have a few other ideas like cargo transfer and shipping routes, and I think that system could be really enriched by these changes that are coming, and a lot of people will be jumping out to see finally. Also, one important thing to note is that we've been talking a lot about ship salvaging. We know ships are expensive. The system's not super easy to get into, which I think is one reason why people aren't jumping into the ship system quite as much. So we're also looking at removing the master crafting diagram requirement for a small ship so that people can get their feet wet. Not to be punny, with the ship system.
Did you do that on purpose?
No, I didn't. But after I thought about it, I was like, "What the fuck are you saying?"
So I was muted because I found that hilarious.
I hear you would. Dad joke at its finest.
Dad joke.
So basically, the idea would be that if your ship sunk, you have an option to haul it back up, so you're not losing everything all the time every time your ship goes down. And obviously, I feel for the people who have lost ships and millions of gold and millions of gold sunk. But better late than never. I'll give you that, I guess. So incoming, hopefully the ship salvaging ability will come in with that, and then also we'll get more players out on the seas with small ships, and then reserve the large ships for people who are more experienced out at sea or willing to invest into the system. So that's coming. I haven't been meaning to put the naval players off, but that's really something that Luthier's handles, and he has a much better grip of it than I do. I know even small bugs like crew member stats and everything drive people crazy, and you've all been really patient. So here's me extending a thank you for your patience. You've all been really respectful, considering that we've addressed almost every other thing on the Shard.
Just as a point of interest, there's so much content on this server that I've only been on a boat once in 8 months of playing non-stop.
We're often on boats because they, little things happen, and we're out there fixing them or helping people. And there's a lot more people out at sea than you'd think. Often there's 20 or 30 players out there on boats fighting each other, fighting NPC ships, and they're doing it.
What are these houses, Owen?
we've got some new houses coming. I tease these way too soon because I don't know when they're going to be available, but hopefully they'll be available soon. This is a new house set that I've been working on, which I think people will really like. They're much more open. They're filling some space requirements that people were looking for. They're simple. I like the look of them.
This looks nice.
Hopefully they'll be available soon. I'm also going to work on 5 or 6 others that look a bit different as well. So we'll be looking at having sort of 10 to 12 new houses to choose from in the near future.
Do those monsters come with them?
No, that's Lucius playing around.
They were deleted earlier, damn it.
Yeah, they respawned.
Yeah, they respawned.
So these are new houses, and what's next?
That's really to wrap it up.
More stuff.
Dun, dun, dun. We have tons of stuff, but
Strangelands is coming. I'm going to touch on that briefly.
What on earth is Strangelands?
There you go.
Strangelands is what Lucius comes up with at 4:00 in the morning when he's tired of coding PvP shit. I sit in staff chat just being like, what the hell is this? And he's like, I had an idea on the way to work, and he's like fully coded and fleshed out this whole new mini event, which is basically like a Hunger Games event where you'll queue up, you'll be dropped in, you'll start with a template, you'll have to build up your skills. The most important thing is your health or your hunger and your thirst. So you have to find food and you have to find water, and you'll be breaking crates and building your skills and eating scrolls and fighting each other. But the strange part comes into play because everyone's completely anonymous. So everyone's just named a stranger, and it's
exactly.
Obviously you want to survive, and you can opt to kill each other, you can band up, or whatever it might be. So we're thinking that Strangelands will happen on Sundays. We'll do 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. So we'll hit every time zone, and it's just kind of a mindless mini game that he came up with. It'll be on its own map, and
it's genius.
I think it'll be fun for players to do something completely different. It kind of falls in line of the zombie games or Battle Royale or Hunger Games or whatever. People have been talking about wanting something sort of mindless that's not related. You don't have to have a great character. Everyone can jump in. It still uses UO mechanics, but obviously, there's a few other rules. I'm sure there will be like an 18-page document for Strangelands. So I don't have an ETA on Strangelands, but it's coming. And then mini boss handling will be changing. We are completely aware of the problems with people who are camming mini bosses. That ruins the whole system, and we understand that system is the gateway into the Tomb of Heroism and the Omniboss. Camming is an issue that takes a lot of manpower to police, and at this point I'm tired of arbitrary rules and trying to enforce them. I'll be frank. We have the account management system that's coming into play, which will only allow 1 character from an account group in a dungeon at a time, which will also solve a lot of headaches. And we can begin to apply that to other systems, like only allowing 1 character from an account group to enter a PvP tournament or enter the Omni Lair or whatever it might be. So excited about that system as well. Mini boss handling is going to go to sort of a fragment gathering system, which will allow players who aren't guilded or aren't interested in contributing to the boss quota system or even to fight a boss a little bit of independent utility, that they have a product to sell, or they can contribute to their guild in other meaningful ways. Basically, fragments will drop. You get to a certain number of fragments, you can summon a mini boss. They'll drop with frequency. It's not like we're trying to gateway the system completely or make it more difficult, but just that the guilds who are camming or who they're studying the boss result page shouldn't be rewarded for that sort of shady gameplay, but more into making it something else.
Yeah, that sounds positive.
So additionally, loot drops and rare decor are coming. That's something we've been teasing for a long time, but we've got that in the works. More to hunt for, more gold sinks with new customizations, map tweaks, particularly around shrines. I know that those areas are small and choky. We're going to open them up. Particularly the desert shrine. One of the shrines is already redone, the one in the swamp, which is stupid. I didn't really understand how those systems work. I just made the maps and Lucius made the system. I had the maps done long before the system was finished. So now that I know how all of that's working, I'm going to make some map tweaks there. And New houses. I've got a massive art patch coming. That'll be a big download and patch. Sorry, everyone who uses tree hacks, but you're gonna have to patch your files again.
Thanks, mate.
And you're welcome. And what else? Oh, monster contracts, which I think is something that'll be really fun. Basically, we're taking 8 regions in the world, and monster contracts will drop randomly. You can take those contracts, go and hunt in those regions to fill a quota, similar to the dungeon quota system, but this is more of a solo activity for PVM players who want to hunt overland. Those areas will be buffed. The monsters will be more difficult, more worthwhile to hunt. And once you fill your contract, an overland boss will spawn that you can tackle on your own, or you can call in reinforcements, or whatever else ensues after that. I think that fills an interesting niche for players who aren't really interested in going into dungeons, or they're not keen of the boss system, or they're not part of a guild and they just want to play solo. They want to play overland. They want to be able to recall. They're not looking for hassle. They just want to play. So I think that monster contracts and regional or overland bosses will be an interesting little segue into that system for them. And
how are you going to add all this and Hellgates, Owen? I don't understand.
Oh yeah, Hellgates. I'm not going to talk about Hellgates yet, but I will tease that I'm not stupid, and I'm aware of the popularity of that system in Albion, and keep your eyes peeled.
Nice.
And I think that's a good note to end the debrief on. I think we've covered a lot.
Yeah.
Unless anybody else wants to ask a question or has any ideas or expo, just put the end screen up. So I guess that's it.
Yes.
Thanks very much for tuning in. We had around 200 people listening for most of this.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hope that you're all excited and keen to jump into new content, because we definitely have a lot rolling out.
Cheers, brothers.
Thanks,
everybody.
Thanks for hosting Expo, and thanks for joining, and we'll see you in game.
So let's see. Oh yeah, I need to do the raffle. Haha.
Oh yeah.
Forgot about that. And then to who's streaming right now? Wow, 193 views. Yeah, damn. That's nice. Let's see. Chain link. Who's gonna win the chain link? Anyone that says it's gonna be rigged anyway. All right, so I'm closing it.
It's definitely rigged.
It's definitely rigged, because it's definitely rigged since Blitz won last time.
Well, isn't that your player character, Expo?
What?
Isn't that your player character?
Who?
Blitzkrieg.
All right, so I'm gonna pick draw right now. Wow, a lot of entries. Let's see. Rigged. 1, 2, 3. Random Wisman.
Oh my god.
Let's
so
see
rigged.
if he is here. There he is. All right. So Random Wisman, message me your character name in game, and log in, and I'll hook you up. And let's see. So who's streaming right now on Dionic, Coranthan, Sir Scrap? Got a couple of people there. Let's see. Let's do let's go with Dionic. I'm gonna go raid him. All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming by and for enjoying the stream. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Have a good one.